The two greatest commandments, love of God and love of neighbor. This seems simple. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The Pharisees, after testing and challenging Jesus and heard this response, would be familiar with what it contained as teachers and keepers of the law. The Jewish people know that love of God is central to everything in their lives. They pray a prayer called the Shema, a creed that is recited every day. The first half is the obligation to love the Lord with one's heart, soul, and mind. And much of this part of the Shema is from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God with your whole heart, with your whole being, with your whole strength. Take to heart these words which I command you today. Keep repeating them to your children. Recite them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them on your arm as a sign, and let them be as a pendant on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. This beautiful prayer is summed up by Jesus in his answer to the challenge of the Pharisees. As we have seen elsewhere in the Gospels, the Pharisees have shown they will do everything the law asks of them on the surface, but not really believing in their minds, souls, and hearts. As these passages from Matthew point this out, they tie up, from Matthew 23:4, they tie up heavy burdens, hard to carry, and lay them on people's shoulders, but they will not lift a finger to move them. And in verse 5, all their works are performed to be seen. They widen their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. And in verses 6 and 7, they love places of honor at banquets, seats of honor in synagogues, greetings in marketplaces, and the salutation rabbi. The issue these Pharisees had was being hypocritical. If they didn't love God, how could they even want to love their neighbor, their fellow Jews? When the Jewish people in the gospel hear Jesus about these two greatest commandments, does that mean to ignore all the other commandments and laws? And does this mean we should ignore them as well? The answer to both is no. The two greatest commandments are the foundation for everything in faith. If one loves God with all their mind, heart, and soul, and their neighbor as themselves, the other commandments fall into place easier. It isn't a burden. We put God first in our lives. Loving God involves not only knowing about Jesus, but having a personal relationship with Jesus. When we have a relationship and love someone, we want to spend time with them, make them an important part of our lives. We do this by speaking and communicating with them. We need to take the time to pray and speak with Jesus about everything that is going on in our lives and all of our needs. This is why we attend Mass when we are physically able. But if we're not able to because of COVID or other reasons, we can watch Mass on television, like here on Chalice of Salvation, or in other live stream events. We want to make God a priority in our lives. When we have this as a basis, a foundation, our love for God pours out. It overflows with love of neighbor as ourselves. There are many examples of this outpouring here in the diocese and around the world. Many faithful people go out and help day after day, week after week. Remember, love is a deliberate act of the will, not just a feeling, to paraphrase Pope St. John Paul II. A look at what another pope and saint did, Gregory the Great, back in the late 500s and early 600s, illustrates love of neighbor. He organized an army of volunteers to go through the streets of Rome daily to tend to the sick, feed the poor, and placed homeless families on farms around the city, which were leased to them for 3 generations. Every day, Pope Gregory fed at his own table 12 poor pilgrims, whom he insisted on feeding himself. One day, when he entered the dining room to feed his guest pilgrims, he counted 13, not 12. When he asked about the extra guests, his astonished steward insisted they only had the usual number. "I am sure I see 13, the Pope insisted. As the meal progressed, Gregory noticed that the face of this extra guest kept changing. First it looked young, then the same face would suddenly look middle-aged, then old, and back and forth. When he could stand the mystery no longer, Pope Gregory drew the strange man aside and asked him who he was. The stranger answered, "I am the angel whom God sent to you to prove your charity. Now do not fear. God has sent me to be your guardian. Whatever you ask will be granted you through me." When we reach out to our neighbors with this kind of Christian love, we are demonstrating these 2 great commandments. We all should be able to make a commitment today to reach out to our neighbors. Maybe we are able to make a visit or call a sick or elderly relative, or have a safe, socially distanced coffee with a friend who hasn't been part of Mass in a long time, even before COVID. But because of these limitations, if we can't meet in person, we can reach out online through many different social media platforms. And we can always reach out to a neighbor the old way, with a nice note or card through the mail. We want to remind people that they are not forgotten. They are loved by God, who acts through us. Let us leave all our self-centeredness behind and listen to Jesus and follow the 2 greatest commandments. Because we are all created in God's image and likeness, we are all not only neighbors, but children of God and brothers and sisters. Amen.